Well, hi there and welcome back to 3R Guitars. It's been a couple of days actually. I haven't done much work. I haven't done any work on the Les Pauls. As you can see here, I've been cutting tiles for the kitchen floor. Oh, joy! But in those couple of days, a few things have come through that I ordered. I ordered some plain maple tops, kind of thing, and yeah, these have come through fine, and they're very nice. They're finished with about 15 mils, something like that, but they're not figured at all because they're going to be gold tops. And width wise, you know, there's a little bit of room to make them not centre joined, which I'm okay with that sort of thing. I mean, I didn't really want to, you know, I mean, they're off centre, that's good enough. You know, I can move it over and have about 1.25 inches that side and nothing this side. So the centre line will be about 3/4 inch off, you know, which is absolutely fine. Ideally, I'd have probably preferred them a bit more offline, but it doesn't matter as long as, you know, you won't see the joint anyway, but if it's offline, it's offline, that's good. So they're fine. I've got to get those glued together. The other thing is the truss rods. Here's both the truss rods, and I've got the nuts for them now. They came through the post, so we've got the brass nut. So everything fits in there nicely. I can't think when I actually, I mean, these screw on fine, and you want to really set them just so you can see the, you know, you don't want sort of, you know, definitely not more than that much thread sticking out of them, because then people start getting a bit nervous as to the truss rods pulling out. Something like that is typical. So I adjusted it to that, and then drilled the hole. The washer at that end is hard against the you know, the end of the rebates for the nut sort of thing, and then this fits, well, albeit it's a bit tight, but there we go. That's against there, and that fits in lovely there, sort of thing. So that's good. Now I've got the filler strips that I did for the truss rods, and these are again an absolute exact snug fit in there. And what you want is, I mean, if I'm building a guitar for myself that's not vintage, if I got like tile shit all over me or whatever, but if I'm building a guitar that's not vintage, then I would never ever use one of these truss rods. I'd always use a double acting one that will bend the neck both ways. You know, these are, yeah, these serve a purpose to pull against the string pull, but if your neck, because of wood movement or anything like that, actually curves against the string pull, which I've seen them do it, then you can't do anything about it other than dismantle it and somehow do a bit of carpentry on it to actually get a back bow in it, to get a forward bow in it or something like that. So the critical thing with these truss rods is you must get them clamped in with this, not super tight, but you've got to get this, you know, this filler strip pressed down on top of the 3/16 rod, and make sure that it's an absolute snug fit in there, that you've got the truss rod all the way to the bottom of the slot that you've cut, and you've got this pressing it down on the bottom. I mean, you don't grunch it up or anything really tight, you know, pressing this down to glue it on, but make sure it goes right down and the whole thing is sandwiched in that slot fairly tight. If you've got a gap underneath the rod, then the neck will bend up. You know, there's no, the steel rod won't help at all when the neck bends up until the rod bends down and touches the bottom of the slot, kind of thing. And equally, you know, if the neck bends against the string pull, bends with the string pull, then you want the rod to bend as well with that. So if it's loose in the slot, the rod might not bend, but if the rod has been bent to a curve with the string pull, you know, sort of like that or something, then, you know, if it's tight against that wood, when you tighten it up, it will then you know, bow the neck the other way. So, you know, you don't want the truss rod in there loose at all, and you don't want it grunched in there really tight that it can't, you know, it's going to have difficulty in stretching, sort of thing. But that would be unusual. So what I do is I don't put anything around the rod. Some people put drinking straws or something like that. I don't, because my slot in here is tight around the rod anyway. But what I do is I coat it with a light oil. Cooking oil is fine, so glue won't stick to it. Then I put glue on the filler strip. I don't put any glue in the slot, and then I press this in, press the filler strip in over the truss rod and down. If you put glue in the slot, then you'll just drive it down onto the truss rod, sort of thing. So you don't want that. So just as long as this is stuck in and tight down to the truss rod, job done. Sorry for all the waffle, but there you go. So yeah, I'll get gluing these filler strips in then, and the first thing is put some oil around just wipe a bit of oil over the truss rods now before hammering them in, before pushing them into the bottom of the slot, and then we'll glue the strips in. So here we are with the truss rod. I've got the truss rod all in. I put the bit of filler strip in the end there and made sure I, you know, tap the truss rod down, made sure it's right at the bottom of the channel. I've smeared glue quite sparingly over this, but it's completely covered. Obviously you want the bottom of it to be straight. I mean, actually I managed to do it with one filler strip, so I'll keep the other for another project. But just like push it into the slot. It's all pretty easy really, and push it right up to the barrel nut, that side, and then push it in. And get some clamps. Well, firstly I'll use one of these just to make sure it's down all the way. I think it is there, but you can't see, I'm sorry, but you can just see that I'm just winding this clamp down and just making sure that truss rod is pushed. The filler strip is pushed all the way down. Well, I'm pretty sure that's all the way home. I'm just snugging them up, I'm not really grunching them up. I have actually seen luthiers put like a little spacer underneath the centre of the truss rod, you know, in the middle of the run. And I think that's probably actually quite a good idea. I've never done it myself, but you know, it would give the truss rod a fulcrum to work on if it's ever bent. Right, there we go. You've got this little bit left over in length, and I can do these, just the end bit there. I'll glue that in there as well. I mean, that's not really consequential. This won't do both. It's too deep. Oh well, we can do one. Doesn't need clamping. There we go. So we've got both the filler strips in now, and can fettle with those, so the truss rods are all installed. Jolly good. Cheers. So where are we? Right, the last thing I did was glue these two maple caps together to make the top of the guitars. I mean, currently they are centre joined, but there's enough width to slide them off centre, which would be more in keeping with Les Paul from the early 50s. They were very, I don't, I mean, how do you know, but all information suggests that they weren't centre joined, but some might have been, some might not. I can't imagine them deliberately not doing a centre join, but just using the wood they had. And this is maple with a very plain grain. I mean, unbelievably, it still cost me 80 quid for these two bits, but I wanted a lightweight maple. It is American maple, but you know, lighter weight is always better, sort of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, going back on that, I really need to clean out my shed and get rid of all the little bits of wood I've got, but when it's this price, you're a bit reticent to throw it away. But let's see where we are then. So maple top's done, necks are all in with a truss rod's all done and made. We covered that, so they are pretty good. The headstock's done. A little bit of filing to do in the centre of the moustache there, but that's all pretty good. Got the proper nuts and made the washers, bodies. The main routing is done. You know, on the back we've got the control cavity covers routed in there, and the switch. And on the front we've got the, you know, obviously the wire channel and things. It's a matter of interest here. Just like to show you the quality of the wood I've got here, what's this? Is this on pounds? This is on pounds. So the whole weight of the neck, I mean, I wish you could actually feel this, but like the whole weight of the neck is £1 3 ounces. So I mean, that is featherweight. The other one feels slightly heavier. Not really, £1 4 ounces. Now here's the interesting thing actually. Now I've basically got two qualities of Honduran mahogany. This is like the best quality one, I think. I'm only going on weight here, but if we look at this down here now, £4 2 ounces. It's really, really light for that chunk of mahogany. £4 2 ounces. Now let's have a look at this one, which is like Honduran mahogany. I had sort of lying around, decided to do it with that. So that's £5 13 ounces. So it's almost, so what was this one again? £4 1 ounce and £5 13 ounces. So it's a pound and, well, and you could sort of say £6 there. So there's almost £2 difference in weight between these two bodies. And here we go. Let's just weigh the maple cap as well. What have we got here with this? See, that's £4 there. So we're going to end up with probably, that's £4. So we're going to end up with £8. And then this is, what was that? £9 for this Les Paul. I mean, a lot of this maple will be cut off, so you know it's going to be around about £8 with all that there. You know, the top is going to be also carved down as well as cut to shape. So I would suspect this Les Paul would end up significantly under £10, because I mean, you know, you take out wood for the pickup cavities and you put pickups in there, so if you say that's about roughly the same. So I would say this guitar would end up around the £8 mark, and this would end up probably just a tad under £10, which I think is still pretty good for a Les Paul. So, you know, interestingly, this is one of my very early guitars I built as a kid, sort of thing, but it's basically a Les Paul with a Honduran mahogany body, and if we weigh that, I mean, that's exactly £10, and it's, you say, it's, you know, that's what we're gonna probably about, you know, at £10 is probably about average for a good Les Paul sort of thing. So I think especially with this one, with the light one, we're on to something quite special here. So what I'm going to do next now is I'm going to cut out the around and draw around the maple and cut it out with a bit of an edge. Don't be too scrimpy with cutting out the edge, because you know, when you go and glue it on, these things can like slide around, and you want to be careful of that. But you know, so you know, probably leave yourself a good few millimeters around the edge, and then you can, you know, you can route round it to the final shape sort of thing. So I think what we'll do now is we'll get, like I say, get this drawn out and go from there. So there we go. Be back. Right, well here we go. I've got this cut out, drawn out now. The top, and you can see it's, you know, it's canted to one side there. I've put my very narrow blade, narrow blade in the bandsaw, so I can whiz round the curves sort of thing, so I can actually start cutting this out now. And like I say, leave a bit of an edge, because you can always route it off afterwards. So let's go. We've got them cut out. I mean, it makes little point really, because I can, you know, what I'll do is I'll glue the tops on, and basically route round it with a bearing guided router. They're absolutely flat on there, which is nice, so shouldn't be too much of a problem for a glue up. So that will be good. So yeah, I'll get on and do that. I mean, really, I mean, I'm in these builds. I'm not using a you know, the original style of glues. I mean, generally it was like a hide glue they'd use, but this joint, actually, there's a lot of talk on that it was some other glue sort of thing, because people have picked it out of the control cavity, or the wire channel or something, and they say it's like a, you know, it's a more modern sort of glue, because hide glue would take ages to dry on something like that. I mean, there we go. So I'll get on and glue these down now, and then I think we'll be good to go. But what I'm pleased with, you know, you can see, you know, it's like near as it's absolutely flat, you know, which is really nice. You've got no forcing to do on it. And one thing with these tops, don't be tempted to glue half on and then glue the other half on and then kind of clamp it together as well. If you do that, you'll find that that joint will open up, due to probably due to the wetting of this wood, and then it shrinks sort of thing, but you'll find that joint will open. So glue it together first like this, and then glue it to the top. But anyway, I'll get gluing up now and go from there. Yeah, when you're doing this, there's no need to put like bucket loads of glue on, you know, just an even coverage over all of it. If you put too much on, the top will tend to float, and then when you clamp it down, it will move and everything. So as long as it's all covered with a shiny wet glue, that's fine, but don't go nuts on a load of glue, otherwise you'll just end up with a shitload of mess sort of thing. And the other thing is, make sure that, you know, you don't do anything stupid like make a left-handed guitar. And it's not so, you know, on you know, Les Paul Goldtops, it doesn't really matter which way you cut this out, because you can flip it over or whatever. But if you've got something with a fancy grain on it that you want a particular feature on, make sure you're not making a left-handed guitar unless you want one. And equally, you know, you're not gluing something to the back or the front, or, I mean, with a Les Paul you can tell, but you know, with other guitars you do it. You don't do anything stupid, you know, which I've done plenty of times. But you can see how sort of floaty that is on there. But if you just wiggle it around a little bit, it gets a lot of friction. I mean, I can lift it up now, and the whole body comes up with it sort of thing. So, you know, put it on and just move it back and forth. You're all stuck there now. Now you can sort of make sure that there's an overhang all the way round. I'm going to pull that a bit forward. It doesn't need to, but ideally, right there we are. Now, you know, that is quite solid on there. Like I say, we can like lift that up by the top. It's quite good. So if you had more glue on it, it would be very slippery. Now the thing is, we'll get clamping it. I'll get back to you. Right, here you go. Then I've got the two bodies glued up now with all the tops on. Like I say, just make sure that it hasn't slid off, you know, off line, so you've got any of the maple top sort of inside the mahogany body line or anything like that. If you've got one little bit that's a tiny bit inside or whatever, and it's, you know, you've clamped it all up and you kind of think, oh god, I've got to unclamp it again and move it, you can get away with a little bit. Don't forget that I think the binding is about 1.5 millimeters thick, so you know you are going to be taking off a little bit of the, you know, a little bit of the mahogany and maple together, because the binding goes below the line of the maple by a little bit, but not in the, nowhere in the cutaway do you want it, because the binding is above the maple. Now, as you can see, this clamping, I've put wooden clamping cores underneath to stop the clamps damaging the back side of the body, sort of thing. But on the top, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be carving it down anyway, so that doesn't matter. Also, what was I going to say? In addition, the bit that's made this a relative joy to do is in fact my new routing table, which is 100% flat, because, you know, when I was gluing up the maple together, you know, the clamps were on here and they were dead flat with each other, so when I glued the maple together, it was perfectly flat, as I showed you on the body, and that makes it so much easier. You're not bending or straining anything, so that's all good. So I can let that set now, and tomorrow, blimey, a bit of sunshine coming in here or something, we can get back to actually the problem, you know, routing the edge of the maple, so it's perfect with the body. As well, what I'm going to do is wipe this glue off here, because we don't want that really on the body, because it just makes it a pain in the arse when you try and route it. And then we can start discussing and contouring the top. Good. Well, hi there, we're back with these Les Paul bodies. Now the top has been glued on. So the next step now is to trim the maple top to the edge of the body, which is pretty accurate. So what I'm doing is using this bearing guided router. It's got bearing on the top, and just simply follow around, and the bearing will follow the body and the mahogany, and hopefully, if all goes well, you know, the maple will end up the same size as the mahogany. What you've got to be careful of is, once you've glued this on, you know, you tend, I can actually feel one there, you tend to get some drips of glue going down, and obviously that'll upset the router cutter. So, you know, any really bad ones, well, all of them, get them off. I mean, you know, you can normally do that, you know, as you glue it, sort of thing, just wipe it off with a damp cloth. But if you miss one, just give it a, and have the bearing nice. Don't have it right on the, just over the maple, otherwise, you know, you get a bit of glue squeeze out there, sort of thing. So have it running as far up the maple as you far up the mahogany as you can, so you're not in any of the squeeze out of the glue. And yeah, I'm pretty good down back 1/4 inch, so let's give it a go. The other thing is make sure you know, like this table is obviously a new one I've put on, but I glued the tops on it, and you know, there might be some bits of glue blobs on there or whatever. Make sure that's all off, because you don't want the body to tip up at all. So yeah, just be careful. Yeah, a bit of a messy job, eh? But there we go. Now we've got the maple done. What I do notice sometimes, you know, if you stop with the router cutter, you do get some burn marks, and it depends on the grain direction a little bit. But what I actually find sometimes is you get a better result if you take the whole thing, you know, the whole cut at once, instead of, say, shaving at it sort of thing. But I think I'll whiz round it again, because I can feel ever such a fraction of an edge there. But yeah, not really a problem. There we go, we're about dead right with it now. So we've got a nice, really nice finish now around that, and yep, get on with the second one, and I'll bring you back. Well, here's both the bodies done now. Sorry, I'm just covered in maple dust, with the maple now routed to the edges. So, you know, we're getting there kind of thing. So here we go with the two bodies. So the next bit now, I won't start that yet. What I want to do is I'm just full of maple dust everywhere. What I want to do is actually explain what I think is the actual crux of carving a Les Paul top. It all comes down to the neck angle, really. That's the beginning point, and I'll do a little drawing of the way that I see it, and I think it will make some sense sort of before we start. Do that. First thing to do is get the neck angle right on the body, because the fretboard lies flat on top of the maple, so that the front nose of the maple has got to be at neck angle sort of thing. But I'll go through that in the next video. Well, hi there. Yesterday we got the maple cap glued on the body and got it routed to the body shape. So now we got to get preparation going to start doing the contour top, which in all honesty is probably the most difficult bit of doing a Les Paul. It's a lot of work, and there's some maths we've got to do beforehand, and I think this is really important, and really it's worth sticking with this, guys, because as I explain it, you'll kind of understand how the top gets its shape, and why the neck angle is very significant to the shape of the top and stuff, and how all the geometry works. So it's worth looking at it. So let me put this down. Right, so the funny thing is the whole secret of doing starting with the top is the thickness of the maple around the edge. Now when you finish contouring the Les Paul, apart from in here where it curves up sort of thing, so ignore the cutaway, but all around the edge the top is the same thickness, and it's crucial what its thickness is here at the neck joint. Now when I measured this 53 Les Paul, the thickness of the maple at the front here on the neck joint was 3.3 millimeters. Well, that's going to be 1/8 of an inch, I'm pretty sure. But that is where your neck joint starts, and the fretboard actually sits on there. So the fretboard starts at that height, and the only bit you can see of a Les Paul neck in over the whole length of the neck joint is the fretboard. So the neck sits in the body, and the front of the neck, if you like, there, just the, like this surface of the neck under the fretboard has to match the body like perfectly at the beginning, and that allows then the fretboard to be flat on the arch top. So, well, hi there and good morning and welcome to 3R Guitars. I'm sorry about, I think it's part 5 of the video coming out. It's a bit late because I've actually been struggling a bit with editing it, and just some of my explanation in it is so bad on the critical bit of the build, really, that I thought I'd revisit it, do this little extra bit and plug it into that, and then at least when you look at part 5 it'll make a bit more sense. For some reason we've got somebody outside cutting the lawn, it's buzzing past. Now the absolute critical bit, I think, on a Les Paul is the arch top. It's very distinctive, and it's not just there for beauty kind of thing. It's there as much function as like attractiveness. So you have like a you know, it has a double purpose sort of thing, and it's critical to get it right. You can't just carve a willy-nilly blistered top to it sort of thing and then everything is okay. The critical thing is it dictates the neck angle, because the Les Paul basically the fretboard lies flat on the last bit of the neck joint over the body. You don't see the side of the neck at all, you just see the fretboard sitting flat on the top of the maple. That part of the maple must be carved to the neck angle. Now, like I say, this is going to be a mishmash of 2 videos that I'll put together that hopefully will come together okay, and at least give a good explanation of what the hell I'm on about. Right, firstly, the most critical thing, right, this is how far I've got with them now, and it's probably going to take me a couple of videos to get up to this, but I'm going back now and explaining this body top carve and why it's so crucial to the Les Paul. Right, the most critical thing is that this edge of the maple is actually 1/8 of an inch thick, 3.3 millimeters. The binding that's glued on here goes down slightly more than that and goes into the mahogany, but the maple underneath is 3.3 millimeters thick all the way round and right through the neck joint. The only place it varies a little bit is the cutout where you have this hump in it sort of thing, but ignoring that, you've got 3.3 millimeters all the way down. Now, since the neck angle since the fretboard lies flat on the body for the first bit at the neck angle, then that neck angle has got to start at 3.3 millimeters thickness there. So we are going for a 3.5 degree neck angle. So the first carve on the body starts at 3.3 millimeters and cut a flat 3.5 degree angle for 80 millimeters roughly, which is the distance that the fretboard overlaps on top of the body. So that's your first cut. Get this level 3.3 millimeters and hack off at a 3.5 degree angle for the first 80 millimeters, or basically up to the pickup. Now that's the first thing you've got to do. Now I hope you can see this drawing down here. I'm just going to talk over you and I'm going to bring you down. And I know some of this will be in the other video as well, but let's see. So you can see there and you can see there. Let's come a bit closer. Okay, so here you have this is a cross section of the body cut through the middle. Here's the front pickup cavity and neck joint. So you've got your 3.3 millimeters here, then you've got 3.5 degree angle cut there up to the end of the fretboard. So that's basically that much. Body joins at just past the 16th fret, and then from there on I measured the remainder of the angle up to the bridge, which again, that part is flat, it's not curved. That was at 1.25 degrees up to the bridge. And then if you can, the highest part of the body is just behind the bridge. So if you come up at 3.5 to here, and then 1.25 from the end of the fretboard to roughly where the top of the body is, you come to the maple thickness sort of thing, which is about, on this guitar, is about 12.5, more on a burst, because the neck angle is steeper. But I'm going to stop there because I think I can just plug this into the other video and you'll have then a better idea, because I go in the other video, I go into calculations of like stop tailpiece height and you know, wrap around bridge height sort of thing, and various other bits, but just settling on the you know, on the neck angle. When I actually measured this 53, the neck angle was 2.6 degrees, but I think the neck had slipped a little bit because the bridge was whammed right down on the top. So I think, you know, I'm going to go for a 3.5, but I know in the rest of the video I explain my calculations from a neck angle of 2.5 degrees, 3 degrees and 3.5 degrees, and working out what bridge height we'll have here. But anyway, let's get this plugged into the other video and we'll go from there. While I'm here, I'm also just going to show this to demonstrate. Now, so this body is obviously like carved. Now I've just pushed the neck in. That's absolutely bang down, and you can see how well that is absolutely flat across there. So you can see how the fretboard now lies like basically flat on that, and that gives you the typical, you know, Les Paul, where, you know, there's not any like of this business, or, you know, that business where you get a wedge under here or anything. You've just basically flat on the top, which is so neat. I must admit, that's very impressive. It's a nice look, I think, for a guitar. You know, it means that you don't get the pickup sticking out miles or anything. Everything's like low to the body. It looks nice. But that's what I mean, you know, by the neck angle, and then this 1.25 angle on from the end of the fretboard up to the bridge. That gives you basically, you know, the bridge at the right height without the bridge being a stupid height or stupidly low. So those two angles are the critical thing to start with when you know, doing a Les Paul top. So there we go, just to demonstrate. Tilt the neck back, which all guitars have. The Les Paul through its years went from, in 52, which was a bit disastrous because the neck angle was too shallow, but went from about 2.5 degrees up to about 4.5 degrees. So, I mean, I'm trying to explain this here, but if you've got the body like this, you want this to be flat on top of it, at that angle, that whatever neck tilt you choose, right? So it starts off at just beyond the 16th fret. That's where the Les Paul body joins, is just between the 16th and 17th fret, but much near the 16th fret. So you have about 80 millimeters of fretboard on the body and on the top. So that section, that first 80 millimeters of the carved top, is dead flat and at the angle of the neck, so the fretboard plonks straight on it, kind of thing. So this angle here is carved at 3.5 degrees, but the thickness of the maple at the beginning of the neck joint is 3.3 millimeters. So from that point there, that 3.3 millimeters, the top gets cut at an angle, at the neck angle, for the first 80 millimeters along here, right, the first 80 millimeters, and then continues at a flat 1.25 degrees to where the bridge is. So basically, like I was saying, this is, I'll check on the video, but you can see here I've got a cross section of the longitudinal section of the body. Now I'm just going to talk over it, so I really hope you can see this here. It's just lining it up. Yeah. Right, okay then. So this is the beginning, this is the front of the body, and this is the neck mortise cut here, and this is the front pickup cavity. Right, okay then. So for that first 80 millimeters approximately, you start off at 3.3 millimeters at the front and cut the neck angle. Now when I measured this guitar, when I measured this guitar, the neck angle was 2.6 degrees, but I'm pretty sure that there was the neck had slipped a little bit. It was too low because the bridge was right down. So I've done 3 measurements here. Well, let's just carry on. So you've got 80 millimeters at the neck angle, and then from where the fretboard finishes, so you have your 15th fret, 16th, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, about there. So the fretboard just finishes before first pickup, obviously. So you've got 80 millimeters there at the neck angle, and when you get to there, you want to continue at 1.25 degrees up till you get to roughly the bridge or a little bit beyond. It's a bit fatter beyond the bridge. Now I checked all this because what I did, you got 3.3 millimeters, and then I did say a 3-degree neck angle. Now after going 80 millimeters along, that would rise by 4 millimeters. Okay, and then going from that point to the bridge, that would rise by another 3.5 millimeters. So if you add that all up, you've got 3.3 millimeters, another 3.5 millimeters, and then another 4.9 millimeters. So 3.3 plus 4.9, and then this 1.25 rise is another 3.5 millimeters. So the total thickness of that maple under the bridge with a 3-degree neck angle would be 11.7 millimeters. And when I measured the thickness, it was actually like 12 millimeters thickness at its thickest point, which is probably just after the bridge anyway. So that's how the whole, I'm not explaining this very well, but I hope you can get the picture. So if you work it out, you know, at a 3, I think I finally did a 3.5 degree neck angle, but somewhere between 3 and 3.5 will make it, you know, you'll end up with a 12 millimeter at its thickest, the maple top at its thickest, which it's meant to be. And then under the bridge it's going to be a bit less than that, 11.7. But the thing is, you also need, you know, if you do say 3.5 degrees the neck angle over the whole length, you'll get you know, you want to have a neck angle that will take into account the height of the bridge, but you've got to add on the thickness of the fretboard as well to the height, just to make sure that you're right. So let me switch you off and get back to you, because this is just confusing me as well. Right, okay, I've worked it out and I'm really sorry about this. Let's just try and summarize what we've got. I mean, I've got to get it right in my head. Right, I'm going to pick 3.5 degrees as the neck angle. Okay, the first 80 millimeters of the top has to be at 3.5 degrees because the fretboard sits on it flat. That gives you, that 3.5 degrees gives you a rise of 4 millimeters in that approximate 80 millimeter overhang of the fretboard. So it's gone up 4 millimeters there. Then from here, from the end of the fretboard to the bridge is 160 millimeters, and that was, I measured at 1.25 degrees, and that length at 1.25 degrees raises it by 3.5 millimeters. So you've got 4 millimeters raise there, another 3.5 here, so that in total is a 7.5 millimeter rise approximately. And then you've got to add on the 3.3 millimeters at the beginning. So with the exact numbers, I made that 11.7 millimeters rise or thickness of wood maple underneath the bridge, which is about damn right, because the whole top thickness is approximately 12 millimeters, just over 12. So the top does continue to rise a little bit after the bridge anyway, to its fattest point. So you have 11.7 millimeters of thickness under the approximate bridge position. Now if you just take that whole distance, which is approximately 240 mil from the beginning of the body from the beginning of the neck joint to the bridge, that's approximately 240 millimeters. And then you take the neck angle of 3.5 degrees. The height, if you continue that 3.5 degrees along there, the height there would be something like, I didn't write it down, 12.7 millimeters in that whole length. Okay, but then you've got to add on the 3.3 to that, and then you've got to add on the thickness of the fretboard on that, which is about 5 millimeters. So you end up with, if you project the top of the, you end up with the slope of the neck would produce a height there of about 23 millimeters. Okay, from the top up, from including the thickness of the maple, would be 23 millimeters. Now that leaves you somewhere like about, so you've got 23 millimeters total minus 11.7 that's there, so you've got about 12 millimeters of from the plane of the top of the fretboard to the top of the maple. Well, that's not quite enough for the bridge, which is like 13 millimeters, so you wouldn't be able to fit a bridge under there. But don't forget, you've got the fret height to add on as well, which is 1.5 mil, plus the action height. So you know, you will have enough room to get a bridge there easily, with a little bit of up down wiggle room, without the bridge being stupidly high. So I hope you can see all that topography there, how it all works. So basically, you know, you want to find a string height, a neck angle string height, that you don't have to have the bridge like stupidly high, or you don't have to have the bridge at a position where you can't get it any lower because it's flat on the top. And I think a 3.5 degree neck angle will be absolutely perfect on there. Like I say, it's too tight with just taking into account the fretboard thickness, but don't forget you've got the fret height and you've got the action to add on. So I think that will make a really nice height there, and I hope it's not too confusing. So we're going to cut, going back to the body here, we're going to cut the first 80 millimeters, starting at 3.3 millimeters thick with the maple. So we'll cut that at 3.5 degrees, and then wherever that finishes, that will be basically the front pickup there, somewhere around the 16th fret, 15, 16. The front pickup will be about there, and from there we're going to go 1.25 back to there at an angle, and that will then leave us with about 11.7 millimeter thick top there, and then that will be good. So we'll start working on that. So I'll get you back. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but I think it's well worth getting it right, because like you know, you can work it all out. I mean, you can scale draw it, but I think with angles this small, it's worth doing the old trigonometry. I mean, and of course you've got, you know, although we say that the fretboard sits flat on the top of the maple, yes it does, but if you've got to just wiggle it a little bit, you know, you're going to get away with that, no problem at all. So you've probably got 0.5 degree wiggle room with a neck angle anyway before you'd start noticing that something was out of kilter on the guitar. But there we go. So let me get things set up, and then we can work out how we're gonna cut this. Yep.